Welcome to the lesson about image upscaling and iteration workflow and how to pick winners and polish your images. It's actually a very important skill to have just because out of thousands, out of hundreds of images, you need to pick one that you later will be animating in animation programs. So how to pick these ones and what rules do I use in my work routine, I will share with you in this tutorial and this lesson. So now I want to start with basics. Of course, to pick from images you need to create a good ones, and by good ones I mean the best ones that you can. So before actually picking images, make sure that you created a very good results, because I never ever do a video or send the results to my clients if I'm not satisfied with the results of the images itself. Sometimes it's hard to understand where the prompt is good and where the prompt is not good, but trust me, if you have a wow effect on even some of the images that you create with this exact prompt, then you are on the right way. And sometimes when I created a prompt and added, as we learned, image references, style references, and have this wow effect even on tiny amount of images, I still continue to regenerate again and again until I see the wow effect one. So I wanted to show you some that I actually used in my real customers project for their bed, as I told you before. And I created several images. And when we create images, we need to understand that we later will be animating them. And the image that you see will most likely be the starting point of your latest video. It's not always true, just because sometimes when we will edit the video later, we can crop the first seconds, so it's not necessarily true that it will always be the first frame, but most likely, like 80%, that it will. So the image itself should have a great angle and should tell the story. By telling a story, I mean it should already have some, let's say, some concept, some design, so that you could understand how you will animate it later. For example, with this one, how to choose, for example, the best one out of this one. So in my opinion, this one is boring. Why? Because there is no wow effect in it. Just because, for example, we're going to create a reel for architecture, just some aesthetic reel, this one isn't enough. Why? Just because it's very, not wow, it's average, I would say. And there's no wow effect, such as something interesting, something that can really make a person to play this video again or just to watch it till the end. This concept I like, but still I would think that the angle and composition is really not great here. Why? Just because there are too many objects, and it's very hard for eye to get concentrated on something, on one object. So I would skip this one too. This one is pretty interesting, but I think that to animate this one, I would change the bed, because sometimes when we really like one, let's say, one thing in, let's say, the interior design, it's very common on Midjourney that you won't like something else and you need to edit it. This is like a very, very common thing in Midjourney. So I would suggest to just generate more and more to get the results that you like. So if we go back to this one, I would think that if to choose out of that four, I would choose these ones just because it's interesting. It's very non-common to see the bed around the water. It's very interesting in, let's say, in design. It's unusual. It may keep viewers' eye. I would, of course, edit it later, but let's just try and change the picture a bit. So I mostly use this over this, just because when you use a strong variety, this really is something that changes the concept too much. But if you like as a whole, for example, we loved this one, like it's cool, but it's just like not the right composition, I would really try to do it again just with a strong remix. And let's start from the architecture first, and then we will go to the humans. So this is what we had with just a slight variation of things. I think that it really changes the concept as well. And look what we had with like a strong one. It's really great. It's absolutely interesting designs. They are inspired by the pictures that we used, yet it's absolutely different. So if you really love the concept, but you just think that something is really, just something's not, something's not here, you need to do the, you need to do the strong variation, the strong remix, just because when you do the strong remix, it uses the whole aesthetics, the whole composition, well, not composition, but just a whole concept of the picture, and just uses it at the absolutely different composition. And let's see what it did with the ones that we liked but didn't like the composition. Well, this one is more interesting than the previous one because the bed here, for example, is more obvious, like it's not surrounded by that big amount of things. So it's definitely great to use and work with it later in editor. And here's what happens when you actually do the strong variation, like creates absolutely different concepts, yet preserves this core of the composition of the concept in the first original picture. So as long as you like something about the picture and it really stands out, so you look at many pictures, let's say 20-30 images, and one picture really stands out in your eye, in your taste, you can just open it and then make slight changes or strong changes and do it as long as you need until you get the result that you want. This is how I do it. There is no secret because you literally can do it for hours, and I mean it when I say it. Sometimes it generates a lot of time, only one image, so there's no magic rule. It's only your experimentation, and it's really up to you what you will have in the final result of your reel. So as long as we like the result, we will later edit it, and we will get back to this a little bit later. So let's talk about people. With architecture, with aesthetics, it works like this. You just pick the best one and just later trying to pick the best one with strong or slight remix, as I call it. So what about humans? Humans are a bit difficult in my opinion, just because when you try to tell a story, it may be for your project, it may be for just an aesthetic reel. You need to tell a story so that the story would look like a whole story, not just like a parts of absolutely different images put together and then and being animated. So with images, it's a little bit harder. So when I personally pick the image for my reels, I of course, as we did with designs and architecture, I picked the best one that really stands out to my eye. But I also see that all images that I pick, no matter how much I liked some, I just can't add them just because it will look absolutely like a total different next scene or something off. So for example, when we go through all of this, we need to understand what exactly we need. So do we create a reel that will be looking like retro, or it will look like modern? So it all should be considered before you actually pick the picture. And for example, I wouldn't recommend using this one just because it's firstly not wow, because the concept here is sun behind her. It may look great, but in this case, it's like not necessarily needed because we need all attention to her, how she reads, and it's literally just some objects that are distracting from her. Let's say from all of this pictures, we could just try something closer, as it always works for me. She has a neutral background that we could tell us in the story later, like to show more background. For example, for the first scene, this one may be good because in my experience, and we will talk about this later as well, I realized that the closer the first scenes are, the better. So for example, we can choose these over this. Like she is further from the camera than she is. That's why I would pick her. Once again, we can do the slight remix. We can do the strong ones. I do it sometimes only always on the pictures, even that I like them a lot. Like even if I do this one, sometimes my brain just tells me just try something else, maybe it will work out better. So it really works like this. You just all an experimentation, and of course finding the best angles. So for the first scene, for the people I always choose the closer one. And then we just need to understand that we need to tell a story, or we need to continue. I really love the composition on this one. Of course, we look at the composition, we look at their faces, it really matters. But for example, this one, I would do probably the second scene if we will just showing the aesthetics of picnic, you know what I mean? Because if we want to tell a story, it should be more, it should be like, you know, showing the whole place, like a whole park, wherever she is. And if we just do an aesthetic reels, then just finding the best angle and the best compositions is just our main job. So also we need to keep in mind that when we will animate it, we need to understand what this person will do, because we will animate a person. So for example, if this one is just sitting with a book, we can make her, I don't know, just reading it, or we can make her take something out from this basket. It's also maybe a good one for action, because the more action we will put, the better. And for the first one, we can make her just, you know, reading. So whenever we pick the scene, we need to understand what this person will be doing. If in every scene she's just holding a book, then we definitely need to change something. And by something, of course, I mean to change the prompt itself. So she may just eating apple at picnic, let's say. So it's not always about choosing the right things all the time from one prompt, of course, but to be honest, I rarely change a lot in prompts. I change only one thing, like eating apple, or because when we change it completely, then the whole aesthetics would be just gone. And just seeing that even changing like one object really changed like the whole scene. I really like this one a lot, just not sure about her leg. And not liking her leg actually leads us to the next section of this lesson, is to editing. And sometimes, well, not sometimes in Midjourney, you just love the picture. For example, I love it. Even though I love it, I still will do the remixes of this picture just because I always do it. We need this editor function. I don't like how it works on Midjourney. Unfortunately, it used to be so much better. So with the pictures that are not using omnireference like we do use now, it's quite good. But with images that have these references, it's just awful. Midjourney definitely needs to do something about it. We will talk about this when we'll talk about people. It's really something that Midjourney needs to change, because it's not very comfortable to use. So for this one, we will do this, but you know, for the next images, we will talk about it and see what we can do. Just knowing that we can't change much, you know, it happens. So when we chose all areas we want to edit, and I chose everything that just seemed off, like this one, what is this, you know, because it may seem fine in like an overall picture, but when we actually start to see like what's going on here, what's this, I try to edit it as much as I can, not necessarily all the time, but when we picked all the areas, we just submit it and see what happens. I usually don't change the prompt here. If you want something like exact, some object, you can write it here, just like the edit, like you can delete this one and say like, I don't know, blanket on the grass, something like that. But I don't always do that, so it's not that. See, as I told you before, just remixing it slightly, or just remixing it, just for example, of this one right now, even better. See how it goes. It's like flow of experimenting. And this one is, I guess, the strong variations. We created absolutely different composition. And I would say that this editing takes a lot of time if you use it in a slow mode that I use right now. So let's talk about editing more. What actually we can edit and what we can't. So when you see that she has a natural, she or him, any other person on your Midjourney images can have a natural pose, there is unlikely that we can unfortunately do something with it, because no matter how much I try to regenerate it, like partly or editing, when you're first